We didn't do very well for most Australians in the 7 years before the pandemic hit. That was at the end of 28 years of steady growth. The overall performance was very strong. But in the last 7 years, we had no growth in output per person, and average incomes of half of Australians didn't increase at all or fell a little bit. And during that period, we had no reduction in unemployment. We ended the 7 years in 2019 with unemployment a bit over 5%, as it was at the beginning. That contrasts with the United States, for example, which started with much higher unemployment than we did and ended the period with 3.5% unemployment. We had very big increases in underemployment, people not being able to get the number of hours work that they wanted during that period. So it wasn't a good period for Australian economic development, economic growth, or the living standards of most Australians. That's why we shouldn't want to get back to where we were, but we couldn't even if we wanted to. If we had the same policies and approaches in the 20s as we had in the teens, then we wouldn't get even as good a performance as we did then. Because business investment ended the period very low, and it's lower still now. It's going to be hard to get it up again, and without important changes of policy, we won't get it up again. Productivity growth was very low at the end of the period. We need change to get it up, and we'll go into the post-pandemic period with very much higher public debt, $1 trillion. Of public debt that we didn't have in the past. We began the 7 years before the recession, the 7 years before the pandemic, the period I call the dog days. We went into that with a very low level of debt by our own historical standards or by international standards. Well, by Australian historical standards, we've got by far the biggest deficits we've ever had in peacetime now. They'll linger for a while, and that will leave us with a big legacy of debt. So just doing things as well as we did before will be quite a challenge for Australian living standards. And I don't think we can afford to go through another long period of stagnation, of declining incomes. This is a time of systemic competition in which our democracy has to perform well if it's to be in good shape against the competitors. And we'll have a pretty grumpy and divided society if we follow the dog days with a period of declining incomes.